You're probably trying to figure out how much you need to retire. I know a lot of people, it's like what do I need to retire? Well, there's different ways to look at this. There's different approaches that you can use depending on where you are along the journey for retirement. If you're working with a financial planner, they're going to do that for you, but you are going to pay them to do it. And so there's cool tools that are out there. There's a lot of things, but it's really trying to figure out, okay, what are the simple ways to calculate how much I can live on and retire on? That's what I want to help you with today. So let's go over to the handy dandy board and let's talk about this for a second. So there's a couple different ways that planners oftentimes are presenting this to talk about with you. The first one is the top-down approach. And so with top-down, personally, this isn't one that I like, and I'll tell you why. I'll show this to you. But basically what you're going to do is, let's say that you make $100,000 a year. Well, if you make $100,000 a year, maybe you're going to put $20,000 a year into your Roth. So your take home before taxes and all of that, or not really your take home, but your gross is $80,000. And so if you say, okay, you know what? I can live on $80,000 because that's what we're living on now, and everything just works. Then you say, okay, great. Then I need $80,000 a year to retire on. Personally, I think that that's a horrible, very 1,000-foot view approach of your finances. Maybe if you were, in your 30s and you just want to calculate something real quick, that's one way to do it. You can figure out then, okay, say, well, I'm going to get a couple $1,000s a month of Social Security. I'm going to have, $1 million and I can pull this much. Am I able to cover my expenses or not? That's a general way to do that. The issue with that is when you retire, you're going to have other expenses that come into play. Healthcare is really just, probably your main expense that you're going to have. Other factors that can come into play. I mean, part of this is just your goals. When you're retiring, don't you want to think through travel? I mean, I've met very few people who don't want to travel some in retirement and have a budget for that. Beyond that, if that's not factored into this $80,000, you also have something that is just unexpected expenses. Junk is going to happen. It always does, right? It happened before you retire. It's not going to change when you retire. So maybe the roof goes out, or the AC goes out, the roof leaks, all these different things that can happen in retirement. So you got to have this extra dough over here to pull from for that. So that's why I personally don't like the top-down approach, and what we here at Jazz do. And so you've got a bottom-up approach, and so the bottom-up is basically starting from the bottom. It's figuring out, all right, what are all my expenses? So calculating, I know it's the B word of finance. Don't you just hate it? Budget. And so really figuring out though, hey, what am I spending my money on? That's the easiest thing to do to really get to where we can then help calculate things. At Jazz, that's what we want clients, we really require them. We say first, the one thing we want you to do is know your expenses. If you don't know your expenses, we don't know how much you can live on in retirement, and we never will be able to figure that out. And so really just figuring out what your expenses are. If you know your expenses, that's going to help. Then we can add in things like, oh, you know what? Well, guess what? Average healthcare is, let's just say $6,000 a year, so that's $500 a month additional. Then let's say, you know what? You're going to want to travel, let's say the go-go years, like we like to talk about. So maybe in the go-go years, you're going to spend an extra $1,000 a month for travel. All right, perfect. Well, so that's $12,000 a year there. So then we've got $1,000 a month on that. And then we say, okay, great. Now we've got the base expenses. We have everything figured out. Then we've got to say, all right, what's next? Well, do you have any other income? Almost every single person is going to get Social Security. That's going to be one that's coming in. Then potentially you have, if you're lucky enough, maybe a pension. Maybe you've got a pension even that has a COLA or a cost of living increase. So if you've got that, that's huge. If you don't have that, generally, Social Security does have an increase each year, and that's going to keep up with inflation or come close to it. So that's going to be nice to know and have. So you've got those coming into play. So then let's just say that you want that, $80,000 to live on. Well, let's just say that you have a pension and you have Social Security that both have cost of living increases. And so then now you only need $50,000. Well, if you only need $50,000, then we can figure out what's going to be your investment return. Now, some people like to say, well, let's use the 4% rule. And I know I've been beat up enough on the internet about this because the idea is, you're going to invest and pull from your money and live on 4% a year and potentially have enough money to live and the rest of your life, or at least the next 25, 30 years. I get it. Some of you are big 4% rule people. The problem is I've met people on all aspects of from here to here with the pendulum, and there's very few that are in between. A lot of people want to retire, and they're over here on the ultra-conservative side. There's other people who are like, you know what? I'm okay. I'm not worried about it. Let's keep growing this money. Everybody has their goals, and what we have to find is how you are going to invest and really figure out what's going to be a good return for you to be able to maintain the amount of money enough to go all the way through retirement. Maybe it's 4% withdrawal rate. Maybe it's a 3% withdrawal rate. It depends on really what you are going to receive. Are you investing aggressively? So this is something you want to look at. And so really look at how you've been doing throughout your life before. Would you have, if you had $1 million, let's just say conservatively here, and I know there's many other ways we can do this, but if you had $1 million, let's say you had a 25% market drop and you're invested aggressively, well, guess what? You may see all 25% drop. So if you've got $750,000, are you okay? Are you good? You're still good to retire and you're happy? Or are you going to completely lose it and come out and, maybe I'm your advisor and you're going to come show up and maybe take me like a punching bag. I don't know if you caught the video that is going to be released with Dustin hitting me on the punching bag there. But or you have a conservative, and let's just say, these are hypothetical numbers, but maybe you only drop 10% here. Now, it's nice to figure these ranges here, but also on the other side of that is, well, what if the market jumps one year 15% versus over here you may only get, let's just say 5%. Well, if that's the case, you're not going to be able to potentially always draw 4% down on your money if you're invested ultra conservatively. So know those numbers, know your comfort level, figure those things out, then you're able to truly calculate what you want to live on in retirement and really be able to figure your numbers. If you want a true financial planner that's going to be able to help you with things like that, also consider tax strategies, taxes in general, because taxes are going to be a factor when it comes to retirement. Your RMDs help you to calculate those things and really figure out maybe ways to avoid giving Uncle Sam as much money and maybe keeping a little dough in your pocket. Reach out to us, jazzwealth.com. That's where you can find us. We would be happy to help you.